3, 2, 1, rolling.
Good morning. Good morning. We are here once again, super excited, ready to go with another More Motivation podcast. I am the co-host, Troy Christopher Moore. We're here live in person with the president, Mr. Kendrick Moore. Good morning, Kendrick. How you doing this morning?
Man, I'm excited, man. We're up bright and early, like even extra early, because I know you got to fly out in a little while, Troy. So, we had to make sure we get this done, an opportunity to get this done in person, nothing better. So, but again, we do everything we can to make sure that we deliver. So, we locked in and ready to go.
Awesome. So, as we do here with More Motivation, before we get into the content of the podcast, we like to do a weekly shout out to people in the community doing certain things, businesses, giving back. So for this week, what is the shout out that we have for this week?
Yeah, man, this one's personal. When I talk about my guy, one of my mentees for 10 plus years. He graduated from Kentucky. He's the only person I know that graduated from Kentucky.
Wow.
He was there, Troy, with De'Aaron Fox and them. He didn't play basketball. He played basketball for me, AAU trained. My main man, Keyshawn Patterson. He's big time. He's a financial advisor right now. If you guys, and we talk about this all the time, especially our mentee who's behind the camera right now, Kruti, she's into investment banking, into money, how to handle money, all of that stuff. She's with the big corporations. Keyshawn handles the personal business, though. So all of us should have the knowledge and understanding. And if you don't, he's the person to go see. In terms of creating those portfolios and understanding long-term investments for you, your family, and your future. So make sure you check out my man Keyshawn Patterson whenever you get a chance.
Man, that's awesome, man.
Yep.
Not only to, establish and help people with financial and wealth establishment, but to be a young person
Definitely.
Man, that's a great thing.
For sure.
Man. So shout out to him. Go check him out if you need your money straight.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So let's move right along. So before we even get into this week's conversation, we have to talk about the call to action, right, from last week, man. The feedback we've gotten.
Right.
People literally sending me text messages. People, since I've been in town, stopping me, saying, "Hey, man, this call to action and da 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 da." So talk to us about, that podcast last week and the feedback we got regarding call to action.
And it's crazy with this one. I think it was the timing, the understanding, the clarity in it in our times that we're in when we talked about the call to action and how impactful social media is. Yeah. And our challenge was, let me see if everybody that got social media, delete all negative posts.
Right.
And then follow up with delete the people on there that tag you, all your friends and followers that tag you in negative posts.
Right.
Because there's some thing you got to think beyond the post of how they think about you. And with the feedback, Troy, was crazy because we probably got some of the shortest answers. This.
Right. Yeah.
This the one. Because people could just naturally relate to it. And there was power in those 1 and 2 word responses.
Right.
Like this is the one that everyone needs to hear. So we still on it. That call to action, this is something that we're going to keep promoting because we want to try to turn the climate around from negative to positive.
Right. Yeah. And I know as a team, we usually kind of share our feedback, going back and forth of what we get. And I can't tell you how much, and it's interesting how I got a lot of feedback I didn't share with the team. It was just exclamation points.
Right.
That's all people were sending me, like exclamation point. I'm like, you want to elaborate a little bit more? And then just exclamation point.
Right.
You know what I mean? So powerful content, powerful podcast in which we had that conversation. It might be something we might want to, at some point tap into. Again. So let's get into this week's conversation. So what we have on deck for this topic for this week.
And it's one of those things where me being involved with so many athletes today, especially those that have the aspirations of playing collegiate sports, but we're really going to target that Division I and what that looks like. So those that want to play Division I sports, but especially going in, you come out something different sometimes. So Division I sports, that's what we're going to tackle today.
So let's just get right into this. And I'm sure as we talk to this, it's not just going to, relate to some of our young audience.
I'm
sure it's going to touch all ages. So
definitely.
Let's get right into this. Let's fire away.
And we think about it, Troy, just my life and having the opportunity to play Division I basketball, right? But how it started, man, like, we always talk about our favorite teams back then, Syracuse and Georgetown. That Sunday afternoon game on CBS in the Carrier Dome.
Original Big
But man, the Big East, man, that's when we fell in love with basketball. I tell the story, I was 11 years old when Keith Smart hit the shot to beat Syracuse in the championship in 87, I'm pretty sure it was. But I remember watching the game, then going right out to DeLuca. Right after the game. Go right out to DeLuca. And right there, it instilled something in us watching that. And honestly, I didn't even really understand the concept Division I. It was just, man, I wanna do that. I wanna do that thing. I wanna continue playing basketball beyond high school, and that's the next level. So that was my dream, right? To go play, and it just so happened to be Division I. But there were just so many memories from it, but then I think about the preparation to get there. How much work it took, all of the different sacrifices. But a big part of that, Troy, also was what happened while I was there. And I don't think people really understand, because there's two sides of that coin when you're there. You go through so much from a discipline standpoint, the work part, but then there's a lot that's given to you as well. And those are two sides that I really want to look at with understanding long-term impact, of the sport. So that's where we're going today, man. But man, just having an opportunity to do that on a grand scale, what a beautiful opportunity.
Man, that's awesome and phenomenal.
Right.
So let's start off with some of the positive effects of being in a Division I, a D1 system.
Yeah. So you think about it just forget about you. For you got to first think about the business, the brand. And, the success of the brand is usually based on how they generate money. It's like a business, like literally. And with that comes pressure. And because of that, with the athletic programs bringing in so much money in Division I programs, there are just certain types of structures in place to try to assure that we reach a certain level of success. So there's that structure in place. You talking about, I can walk you through a schedule from 6 a.m. to 12 midnight. When you're talking about getting up, weights, being on time for class at 8 a.m., going to an afternoon study hall, another class. Then you got your individual workouts if it's preseason. Then you got your strength and conditioning again in the afternoon. You go to your training table. Then you might have your evening study hall, especially if you're a freshman. Then you get home. You still got homework. Then it's just up to you if you finish it or not, or if you want to hang out and play. Next thing you know, it's after midnight, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. I said, you got to be at that first session at 6. The thing is, it repeats itself immediately. So it happens like concurrently. Man, it one day falls right into the other. But there's that discipline you learn, the work ethic, the structure, the planning. Like there's so much that you get from being in a Division I system. And those traits are things, if you really lock in, they can set you up for success the rest of your life, whether you move on to play professional basketball or not.
Right.
The system is set up on one side of it to help you succeed and get to where you want to get to in life. You apply those traits, structure, because those are the things I took out of it. Discipline. Being on time means be early. Understanding the process. Man, when you buy into certain things that are laid on the table for Division I, it certainly does. And, there's a lot of people that do, Troy, but there's also people that look at the other side and don't value those things.
Wow. Man, that's huge, man. And it's great to hear those particular things, because sometimes outside of that scope, we kind of interpret D1 as being easy.
Right. Oh man, you just forget about that.
You know what I mean? Oh man, everybody say, I could play D1.
Right.
You know, I averaged 30 in high school. I could play D1. Right. So now let's get into some of the negative impacts.
Yeah.
And because I think it's really important to our listeners for this information coming from someone who has direct knowledge of this particular topic. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, and so this is how crazy it is, Troy, and this is kind of why I wanted to attack the topic. I work with a lot of kids, and I shouldn't even call them kids, young adults as well, that go through that process. So I kind of watch them and help groom them to get to Division I, but also watch them kind of go through that process.
Yeah.
So I was at Club Fitness the other day, last week, and I see one of the former kids, and he's not somebody that I was very close to, but I saw his journey, from the outside.
Right.
He's a football player, excellent player. Ended up playing Division I sports, and I would see him in the gym now pretty frequently.
Yeah.
I would ask him, like, oh, what's going on? What is it? What you got on the table? And so he would tell me some things that he's thinking about doing. There's not a real certainty to his conversation and where he is right now. Sounds like he might have a little belief, but I kind of see through some of those things.
Yeah.
Because I want kids to make sure they have a plan. So I said to him, man, I need you to understand this, Troy. I said to him, I need you to understand this. There's a couple things, I'm talking to him. There's a couple things that happen when you play Division I. And I want you to understand in terms of where you are right now and how you're thinking. I said, everything I said earlier, you can get the discipline part of it, the structure, the motivation to get up and push yourself. I said, but there's also another side. And I'm afraid that you might be there right now. See, when you're in Division I, everything is given to you.
Right.
So along with all of that structure and everything, you can become really in a space where you just relying on things to be given to you.
Right.
Like at that same time that I had discipline, I had all of my meals taken care of. The same time that I had to be at those weights, man, Troy, we flying private planes. When I was at Missouri, we on 3 jets to go to games.
Wow.
Literally, we'll have our pregame meal at 3:30, get to the airport by 4:30, 5 o'clock. We getting on 3 different planes, flying to Kansas, play the game, almost like a bus trip at Hartford High, driving from Hartford High to Enfield.
Right.
Play the game and fly right back.
Wow.
Like we live in A+. We flying to Australia in the summer.
Right.
We living the lives of Hawaii. Like we everywhere.
Right.
We ain't got to pull a dime out of our pocket. There's no financial burden at the end of the day. Mama and them ain't have to pay nothing for me to go play college basketball. So you're given everything. And so sometimes when you leave that space, if you're just not a professional athlete and you fell in love with things being given to you and now that stops immediately after graduation.
Wow.
You're in a space where you think everything's about to be given to you.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
And I challenged him. I said, I just want you to understand this might be where you are. Where you think that next thing is about to be given to you. That next meal, that job opportunity. Because in college, I come home, I got a job waiting for me.
Right.
That ain't happening if you ain't handle your business and you just thinking you're relying on. So I challenged him on that part, and he had this gaze in his eyes like he didn't necessarily confirm that was the space he was in.
Right.
But he didn't deny it. He didn't deny it. So I told him, I said, I need you to make sure you're grinding and get after it. Like, know what you want, have a plan. And if you got any questions, I'm here. Because I understand. I've seen it too many times. I've seen it too many times. I've seen some take away the good traits and characteristics from it.
Right.
But I've seen so many people, when they graduate and that clock of them playing ends, their lives like go somewhere totally different.
Wow.
Right? They went in one way and came out another. So
wow.
That's, like I said, that's that conversation we need to make sure we have, that we're taking the right thing from that situation.
All right, Kendrick. So what we want to do here is, I want to kind of take a left turn with this, because you said some really intriguing things with that part of the conversation, right? So we're talking about D1 in sports. Right. So now what I want you to equate that particular thing to, because I don't want people who may not have played D1 to feel like, oh, this ain't for me.
Right.
So I want you to take that equation of D1 and make it parallel to life, right? So talk to us now about how we can get so caught up, like how the D1 player was, everything given to them, and now once that's cut off, what do I do?
Right.
As we get ready to end this podcast, talk to us about how that can have such a negative impact on us, even if we quote unquote never played D1, but we got that mentality.
Troy, here's the deal. That's a mentality that starts off even before you get there. So it's not something, now granted, it is, because it's so impactful, that experience.
Yeah.
It is something that can happen and change you while you're there. But the majority of it starts prior.
Right.
When you enter anything, man, I was at a conversation the other day and I'm talking about purpose. You got to know your purpose of why you're there and what you're there to get out of it.
Right.
Like, you got to be honest with yourself. Why I'm here. I know why I'm here, but I also know exactly what I'm trying to get out of this experience.
Correct.
And that's with any experience.
Correct.
Anything you do. When you walk around and you're walking around without purpose, you don't know that.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So if you let the situation control what you think about getting out of it, then you're always going to be that way.
Always going to be that way. Right.
Right?
That's correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
If you let the situation, I talk to kids now. I tell them, like I said, man, some of y'all come to my space. I could give you the best information in the world. But you might leave, and if you don't think it's fun, because your idea of fun might look different from what I'm telling you.
Right.
If you leave here and you don't think it's fun and all you equate everything to fun, you're not going to take anything from it.
That's correct. 100%.
I can bring you somewhere and we could have all the fun in the world. Me teaching you, you won't learn a thing, but you can leave here and say, oh, I had the best time in the world.
Right.
You know, I had the best time. You ain't learned nothing. You just think it's fun.
Right.
You know, so, but if you don't have a purpose of why, that's why I'm so big on that, Troy.
Yeah.
You got to be honest and direct in any space that I'm in.
Yeah.
You know, we were just last week talking to elementary school kids. And those lessons we teach them are the same ones we teach in middle school, high school, the adults, etc. Because it's not always about the content or it's why you're here.
Right.
It's what the reason why we're here.
Right.
And I always make sure I prepare them for that, because it's bigger than right now.
Right.
It's big, and we infuse that, Troy, to make sure that now it's not 100% bulletproof.
Yeah.
But we want to try to make sure that when they're entering these spaces, they're intentional about it. They know what they want out of it, and they understand that process. So when they get to Division I, and I might have a decent work ethic, I went there to get a better, decent work ethic. I needed the structure, I needed the planning, etc. Those things become easy.
Yeah.
Right? When I enter a certain job, you know, is it for the skill or is it for everything else that comes along with it? And those are people, Troy, honestly, that enjoy standards too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Some people seek standards.
Right.
Some people don't want standards. Because with standards come accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So some people just say, I don't want to be a part of no place that's no, but some people with great vision of where they want to go, they seek standards. Mm-hmm. And when you're that way in any aspect of your life, you're more than likely going to get the thing out of it that you want at the end of the day. So that I'm glad you brought that up, because this is not just a sports conversation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is not just a sports conversation.
Right.
This is one of them conversations that relates directly to life and things that you enter, especially at a high level.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're about to close this out. Man, this has been a powerful conversation. In regards to, being a D1 athlete and equating this to life. So close us out with how after that space of being a D1 athlete, right? Talk to us about how we can stay consistent with the things we were learning as a D1 athlete versus after D1, whether we're in sports or not. How can we stay consistent? So talk to us about that as we close out.
Right. Troy, it takes buy-in.
Okay.
It takes buy-in. It's hard because I can just use myself. After I went through that, and we talked about it in one of the other older podcasts, I think we were talking about having plan B or whatever.
Right.
So it's not an easy thing, especially when you go through that process doing something you loved all your life and it doesn't end on your own terms. But I was always conscious of making sure of big picture, like it wasn't just about me.
Right.
I got a lot of people in my life, in my corner, that I owe a lot to. To make sure that, okay, the sport didn't end the way I wanted. That doesn't mean life ends.
Correct.
Life didn't end. As painful as it was that I wasn't able to move forward and continue playing competitively, and I had some beautiful opportunities.
Right.
As I mentioned, being able to travel the world, on the Olympic festival team, made the Olympic festival, being chosen as one of the top 40 freshmen in the country after my freshman year at Missouri. Like wearing a USA jersey. You know what I'm saying? Most people don't get to do that.
Correct.
So,
correct.
And then to see where it was going, but life didn't end just because basketball ended.
Right.
But because I knew the people in my corner that were relying on me, it was just, I gave myself no choice but to make sure that I embodied the spirit of the people around me. And embrace the traits that I learned. And if they're so applicable to today. Every trait that I had prior that were groomed during Division I use today.
Interesting.
Every trait.
Yep.
Because again, when that business says the standards are high and you want to win, man, high level, man, what does that really look like? I thought I knew it before I went in, but man, going through that process, it was at a totally different level. When you walking on the court, you playing Kansas and they got 5 All-American, 5 pros on the team, 5 future pros, and they number 1 in the country. You got to be at your best every possession to knock them off at number 1 in the country when you at home.
Right.
The standard that it took.
Yeah.
And when you know the focus and discipline that takes and you see what you can accomplish in terms of knocking number 1 off, you feel that you can do anything. If you just focus, if you're disciplined, if you're resilient, if you can bounce back, if you can make the plays when they count. You got to be in life. You got to be able to make the plays when they count. It's one thing to make the plays, but when do you make them?
Right.
1,000%. You can make but when do you got to make them when they count? And those are some things that I learned, man, and that I would never change because of that experience of playing D1. So I want all of you guys to make sure you understand that. Take those traits in life that you're learning, the discipline, motivation, and make sure to, number 1, be fully engaged and lock in.
More motivation, live and direct. Thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in this week. Spotify, Podbean, More Basketball website. You can catch us. We want to hear from you. Send us your feedback. We love to hear from our listeners. make sure after you hear this podcast, share it with others, your families, your friends, your enemies, whomever it is, right? But we want to make sure we're here for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a fabulous week. And for more motivation, we are live and direct.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
I just want to thank my son, Kendrick Moore, for dedicating his life to helping our youth. I know it's a tough task, but keep up the good work with Moore Basketball Clinic. I'm proud of the man you have become. I love you.